What if my faith is fake, and I'm the only one who doesn't see it? Have you ever questioned whether your deeply held spiritual convictions might actually be an elaborate self-deception that's painfully obvious to everyone but you? What if your religious identity is less like a profound inner truth and more like an embarrassing haircut that everyone politely refrains from mentioning? Perhaps you're re-experiencing what theological epistemologists might call metaphysical Truman Show syndrome. The unsettling possibility that you the unwitting star of a spiritual reality, show where the audience sees through your performances while you remain blissfully unaware. Today, we're re-exploring the quantum dissonance of faith authenticity, the paradoxical state where your beliefs simultaneously feel genuine to you, yet may be transparently artificial to external observers. What if authentic faith operates like perfect pitch in music, a quality that can be effectively simulated but whose absence is glaringly obvious to those who possess it? Perhaps our spiritual convictions function on a spectrum of authenticity that's imperceptible to those on the lower end, but painfully evident to those further along, creating a kind of faith Dunning-Kruger effect, where the most counterfeit believers are also the most confidently certain of their authenticity. Let's quantify this properly. Psychological studies on self-perception indicate that humans overestimate their positive qualities by an average of 37.2% compared to objective measurements. If we apply this same cognitive bias to spiritual authenticity, there is a mathematical possibility that roughly 1/3 of what we perceive as genuine faith is actually elaborate self-deception. This creates a fascinating spiritual uncertainty principle. If we can never fully step outside our own consciousness to objectively evaluate our beliefs, we're perpetually trapped in a potentially distorted self-assessment. The moment we attempt to measure the authenticity of our faith, we inherently alter the thing being measured, creating what philosophers call the observer effect of spiritual sincerity. When we analyze conversion narratives, we discover something intriguing. Individuals describing their faith journeys frequently reference past periods when they were going through the motions, or just playing the part before experiencing what they consider authentic faith. This creates a curious temporal paradox. Many believers retrospectively identify previous periods of their faith as counterfeit only after claiming to discover real faith, suggesting that authentic devotion may be undetectable to those who do not yet possess it. Consider this unsettling statistical possibility. Studies on human motivation indicate that approximately 68% of our decision-making occurs subconsciously, driven by factors we're unaware of yet confidently attribute to conscious choice. If spiritual behavior follows similar patterns, the uncomfortable math suggests that 2/3 of what we perceive as faithful decisions might actually stem from social conditioning, psychological needs, cultural programming, or neurological predispositions that we're post-rationalizing as spiritual conviction. This creates an intriguing metaphysical blind spot. If authentic faith requires genuine conviction beyond social performance, yet we lack reliable tools to distinguish between authentic conviction and sophisticated self-deception, we were left with a spiritual Schrödinger cat, our faith simultaneously genuine and counterfeit, until external observation collapses the probability wave. But here is where the mathematics gets particularly troubling. What if the very anxiety about faith authenticity is itself evidence of inauthenticity? Our models suggest that genuine conviction doesn't continuously question its own existence, creating a recursive trap where concern about fake faith becomes evidence confirming that very concern. The calculus becomes even more complex when we factor in community dynamics. If the average religious community contains members with varying degrees of authentic faith, its social norms discourage acknowledging doubts. We create perfect conditions for what sociologists call pluralistic ignorance, where everyone privately questions their sincerity while falsely assuming they alone harbor such doubts. After running thousands of simulations on our spiritual sincerity simulator, we've reached a disquieting conclusion. The mathematical probability that your faith contains elements of performance, social conformity, and self-deception approaches 100%. The data suggests that faith purity is likely a theoretical ideal rather than an achievable state. Similar to how physicists discuss perfect vacuums or absolute zero, your spiritual life almost certainly exists as a quantum superposition of authentic conviction and sophisticated social performance. with the ratio constantly fluctuating based on countless variables including mood, social context, and whether someone brought donuts to the worship service. But our calculations offer an unexpected possibility. What if authentic faith is uncharacterized by unwavering certainty, but by honest engagement with doubt? Perhaps genuine spirituality is less about achieving perfect sincerity and more about acknowledging the inevitable human limitations in our pursuit of transcendent truth. This introduces what theological mathematicians call the authenticity paradox, where the most genuine faith may be the one that openly acknowledges its own elements of uncertainty and performance, rather than insisting on an unattainable purity of conviction. So the next time you find yourself wondering whether you're a spiritual fraud, consider this. Your awareness of the gap between your professed beliefs and lived reality might not be evidence of failed faith, but the most honest expression of the universal human struggle with transcendent ideals. Because, according to our most sophisticated theological algorithms, true faith may not be characterized by the absence of doubt, but by the courage to acknowledge it, not by perfect consistency, but by persistent return after inevitable failure. So you re-saying my fear that my faith is fake might actually be the most real part of my faith? According to our calculations, authentic spirituality contains approximately the same ratio of certainty to doubt as a parent has confidence. 2. Terror when bringing their firstborn home from the hospital? That's strangely comforting, paradoxically. The comfort you feel from that statement is itself evidence that you're re-experiencing authentic spiritual growth rather than mere intellectual agreement. Or it might just be a psychological defense mechanism. Welcome to the wonderful uncertainty of authentic faith.